Jesper Zedlitz represents the German Society for Computer Genealogy in this conference. He studied computer science at the University of Kiel and received his PhD in 2013. He's vice president of the biggest German genealogical association, as the SAD Society of Computer Genealogists, with more than 3,600 members. In his research, he focuses on semantic web technologies, modeling of historical facts, data normalization, development of methods to effectively move from printed sources to high-quality linked data through, for example, crowdsourcing. So we dwell a little longer on this topic.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I really enjoy that I can present our one of our projects here. Okay, this is what I want to talk about. I can skip the short introduction because it's all been said. Then I'm going to present some of the sources we are working with. And then the main part is the technical description of our indexing system, the data entry system. And then I'm going to talk about some of our experience with the system. I want to talk about the quantity, the speed, the transcription speed, and also about the transcription quantity. And then I'll point out some future developments we're planning with the system, ongoing research. So I can skip that one. The society is 27 years old, largest German genealogical society. And that's important. We don't get any public funding. So it's all we do is done by membership fees or by voluntary work. So because that's a question I often receive: how large is your public fund? We don't get any funding. Okay, these are 4 examples of sources we're working with. So we have here a military source, the casualty lists German casualty lists of World War I. We have a name index from the civil register. We have church records, and we have also these memorial stones with names on it. And maybe you already see there are 2 different categories of sources. On the one hand side, we have sources with a lot of entries on one page, but these entries are quite simple. They don't contain much information. A name, a given name, and some dates. So many simple entries on one page, and on the other hand, we have pages with only one or a few entries, but these entries are very complex, and then they contain a lot of information and a lot of cross links between these informations. So we have these different kind of categories. Our system has to be flexible enough to deal with both. So now the project, you see the abbreviation DES, that's data entry system. And the objective is to transcribe a printed source into structured data. So here's an example. We have this scan. We are not only interested in the text, in the free text, but we want a structured representation. We have a data model that says our entries have these kind of properties, these kind of data fields, and the task is to transcribe the scan into this structured form. So we have all these information items at the right place. We created our project in 2011, and we started in 2012. And our first source was the German casualty list of World War I. These are approximately 31,000 pages, but more than 83 pages with a lot of names on here. Is an example. They are not in any order. There's an order, but not an alphabetical order, so it's very difficult to find persons and to do other analysis on these data. Meanwhile, we work in a variety of other sources, such as city directories, civil records, war grave lists, other military sources, and we have cooperations with a number of archives. So the most famous ones are the State Archive of Baden-Württemberg or the City Archive of Cologne, and we had some larger projects or even ongoing projects for those archives. So now the technology, the system is a web-based solution that has a lot of has some advantages. We don't need to ship the images to the users. So via DVD or download, we don't have to do any bookkeeping by hand. The system does all the bookkeeping. or we don't have to send any DVDs, etc. And for the users, it's very beneficial because the user does not have to install any special software. We tried this some years before, where the user had to install such a transcription software. It didn't work. No users, or very, very few users, are willing to install additional software to help. Our DES does not require this software. You only need your usual web browser. And because it's every entry is immediately sent to the server, we can see what the user writes, and so we can easily spot users who do not follow the edition guidelines or do some reading mistakes, and we can give them hints. Here, look, you always read the S as an F. Take a closer look at those characters, and then you'll get better results. So we can give assistance quickly. As you will see, the work is directly on the image, so there's no separation between the image and the transcription, which is common for other transcription tools. But our transcription works directly on the scan. We will see this in example. And that's, as already been said, the users want to use the data they are entering. And we also made the experience that the users somehow identify with an entry they index, and it's their entry, and they want to see their entry online. So we have this possibility that even during the transcription of one page, you can search for these entries immediately. And another thing to notice is that we have a two-tiered transcription process. We have the transcription process for single entries. We also have a different tier where we can assign values to a group of entries or a rectangle on the page. You'll see this also. So here's the web application. If you start it, you'll basically see something like this in your web browser, the scan of the image, and you put your mouse pointer at the position where you want to index an entry, and you click there, and a window opens up with the data fields for one entry. You type in the data you read there and click the Save button, and this green rectangle appears at the position where the entry is located on the scan. It has the advantage that it's very easy to see if a user indexed all entries on the page, or if there are any missing green rectangles later when the user finished their page. As I said, this record has immediately been sent to the server, so we can change to the search interface and look for this person. So it was some guy called Markvar from Bramstedt, and I searched for that, and in the search results we see 4 persons with that name, and one is the entry we just transcribed. Now I can click on that result, and there again we use the position of the scan to show this zoom image. So a user has 2 possibilities. He can look up additional information that's given in the source we did not transcribe, and also the user has the transcription very close to the scan, so you can look for transcription typos, etc., and report these transcription errors. If you look very close at the search results, you might have noticed these values in the red box. We did not transcribe those values. Where do they come from? Yeah, that's this second tier, the area data. So here we see the view of this second tier indexing process. In green, all the single entries the users have typed in for this page, and we can draw this rectangle on the scan. And all those entries within these rectangles, they share some values, in this case the regiment. So we type in the regiment. All those entries have this regiment. And we can draw more rectangles, so a hierarchical order here, and all these entries within this rectangle, they share the same units, so it's the 10th company. So after all these areas on the page have been indexed, we have not only the single entries, but also these larger groups, and saved a lot of typing time. We did not have to enter the regiment number for each of these entries, but we have to do it just once. So now, the first question I get when I present the system, does that work? What about the speed of the transcription speed? What about the quantity? Okay, yeah, it worked. Here are the results of the entries entered in the system. In total, there were approximately 8.5 million entries in these casualty lists. And you see we started in 2012 and it ran for a bit more than 2 years. And you see the increase of entries entered into the system. And the blue line plots the number of registered users. So in the beginning there was a run to the system because it was new, everyone wanted to try it. And constantly there were more users coming. Maybe you wonder if the number of users increases linear, why doesn't the number of entries increases quadratically? Yeah, that's the case of those crowd users that just visit the project, type 1 or 3 entries and then leave. There we have still a linear growth in the number of entries. Then I've plotted the number of entries per day the crowd or the community transcribed. We see again this in the beginning, this hype of the new project. They typed up to more than 15,000, 16,000 entries per day, and it dropped to an average of something 8,000 to 9,000 entries per day the users entered. And here, this increase here at 800 days after project start, this was the time when we announced we can finish the transcription 100 years after the start of the First World War. So in August 2040, we can, if we type very hard, we can make it. Yeah, and we see this motivated the users to type more. So this is something for how to advertise such a project to get more activity there. So the second question is, we have seen the quantity, now we have to talk about the quality. How good is this? So we have basically 2 approaches. The one uses single transcription, so we have just one user entering the data. So that would be the simplest case. Then we can add a proofreader. This is basically what we did for the World War I lists. So we have a proofreader who checks these entries. This can be extended. Maybe you know this from Wikisource. They use 2 proofreaders to check the entered data. Or another alternative is we have the transcriber, a proofreader, and if the proofreader spotted some error or some inconsistency, it's given to an expert user who does an arbitration and checks if the transcriber is correct or the proofreader is correct. So those are the single keying approaches. Then we have double keying approaches, where we have at least 2 users type in data. And for example, the first user types an A, but the second user says, no, it's not an A, it's a B. So we have this different, the program detects that there's a difference, and we hand it to an arbiter, to an expert. And the arbiter can say, okay, the first user is correct, it's an A. You can say the second user is correct, it's a B, or you can even say, no, both are wrong, it has to be a C. So that would be the expert user. And the most complex alternative is the double keying with n-keyed run of votes. So we ask many people to try to type the same entry until a majority is found for the data, what's written there. So we continue collecting different answers. And that's what we implemented after our first project. But isn't that totally inefficient to ask many persons until there is a majority? Maybe, but we can use the advantage of our online system that we immediately have the results. So after we need to type every page twice. That doesn't work otherwise. So we have 2 users typing the page, and then we can use the algorithm to compare the pages. And it's usually just a few records that do not match, and we can give the next user the snippets which differ. So a lot of data has already been approved by the system because 2 users type the same, and the third user has just to retype these few entries. So there's not that much effort. So we tried to evaluate the quality improvement by doing a little experiment. We took some randomly chosen data from the casualty lists. As a reminder, it's Gothic print, so it's not handwritten, so it's not really complicated, but it's also not Antiqua font, so it's not the modern font, so it's Gothic print. It's in between the difficulty to read. And we took a sample of, it's quite a small sample of 5,000 entries, and we tried different approaches there. We found out that the single keying, if just one person transcribed this, made on average an error of 15%. Astonishingly, this varies a lot from the different users. There were some good users who made 6% errors, but there are other users who did 78% wrong, so they couldn't really read anything on that. So that's quite a variety. So this is something what you could expect from the crowd, that they possibly made a lot of mistakes. So we have this 15% difference that has been detected after 2 persons typed it. In contrast, our proofreaders, they just get these entries randomly, so there's not really not a procedure. They spotted only 2.4% of the errors. That means the proofreaders missed 85% of the errors. So 85% of the errors remained undetected. So proofreading is not enough. They don't find these errors. And then we made this third step of double keying, and after the third step we only have an error of 1.1 different entries, and this is a result we expected by reading other publications on that topic, where they said after the third, the improvement of quality is very, very little after more than three entry steps. So now some points of future development, what we are working on. I'm supervising students' projects on this. It's easy to capture the text and the structure of an entry, but it's not that easy to capture the relations between entries. So we have, in this case, we have a civil record, a birth record, I think so, with several persons mentioned there. And we sometimes have place reference, etc. And what you would like to do is to link these persons. And you don't want to do it once, but you also want to apply double keying to these links. So this is kind of an open question. Another thing what we did work on is how to use mobile devices with these very limited input capabilities. How we can make use of volunteers sitting in a bus or on a train to do a little bit of work on the transcription. All these things worked with volunteers, so what about people who are not volunteers, who don't really want to help, but we force them to help? For example, you know these captchas, you see them when signing up for a newsletter or entering a web page or something. And we apply the same technology by letting the users enter the date of birth here. It's quite a simple task, so it's easy for users to understand, and we put this captcha box in front of search form or in front of a newsletter sign-up. So the users have to help in the transcription process. And we're also working on a combination, and we had this in the previous talk, a combination of automatic methods, OCR, and manual transcription, and we try to combine those areas. The automatic methods are very bad on last names and on place names, because there's no dictionary where they can look up those names, but they are good for, let's say, street names in a city directory, because that's just a very limited vocabulary. So we hope we can combine those both technologies to make it even faster and more efficient to do the transcription. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, thank you very much for this insight in your project. And I guess there are many questions. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you for your presentation. Very impressive. Do you think it is possible, the last example, to give all transcribed last names to the OCR programmers, just to improve the quality of the OCR with these last names you already have transcribed?
Yeah, the problem is the vast amount of different names and place names. Let me give an example, or I have some numbers from our project. The casualty lists give the date, the place of birth, and they are most of the soldiers came from the German Empire. So we have we don't know the exact number of settlements in the German Empire, but it's something between 300,000 and 500,000 different settlements. But the casualty lists have 1.28 million different place names. So there's a lot of variety in the names, and I think it might be in some kind of misleading to look in the dictionary because the place names are just so similar. And if you just switch one character, you are some 100 kilometers away because you identified the wrong place.
And what about the identification of the place names? For big data analysis, you need an identified place name. It's not useful if you have the right transcription. You need to know where the place is.
Yeah, that's another project. We're working on the Genealogisches Ortsbezeichnisse in German. It's basically a historic gazetteer, or it's more than a gazetteer. It's a historic geoinformation system where we have this administrative structure at various times, and that's I'm supervising a student project right now who's working on this 1.28 million different place names, and he has made quite good results. So we compared. There are some of these geocoders, and we put randomly chosen selection of entries, and they had a quality of 6%. They could only identify 6% of those names, which is very, very little. And my student is working on that, and he has already gained 40% of the place names. So this is more of the soldiers. You can expect a lot of persons came from Berlin. So if you identify just this one place, then you have thousands of entries identified. But for the place names, he has 40%. But I think he can do even better. But that's a different project. We don't do this in this transcription project.
In your many projects, you probably find many persons who might be the same one. That does not apply for the Kriegsgefangenenliste, of course, because you can only die once. But people may occur at different places. Do you have any means to match identical persons?
Yeah, this is one. You said that they can appear once. No, they can appear several times because the casualty list also. They also list the wounded persons. So in this case, you see this Karl Marquardt, he appears 3 times in the list because he has been wounded or he has been missed and reappeared. So the person appeared several times. That's a typical record linkage problem. In this case, it's quite easy because the name is not common, the place of birth is not common, so we can have a high probability that these 3 entries, that's the same person. We have some automatic record linkage tools, but we would also love to do this record linkage in crowdsourcing to compare the automatic results of record linkage with the opinion. We are not sure if it's really true what the crowd says, what the user says, with the opinion of the users. What they say is think what's the same person.